What's up everyone? Jeremy Gerard from Mythic Customs here with one of my short customizing tutorial videos. In this video we're going to look at a painting technique that I call the Urzokk effect. I call it that because it's an effect that you will find on the Urzokk figure from the very first Mythic Legions wave. The effect is one where they have dark armor that's got some kind of like scuffing on it, along with some dirt and grime, some like brown dirt caked on it. It's a really cool looking effect, and it's one that's very, very easy to achieve. That's why I like to use it. I like to use it in part because I love painting characters that have a sense of wear about them. They look like they've been through some battles. Just by looking at that character, you can tell they have a story to tell. That, to me, that's very, very enticing. It's also enjoyable to paint because there's a high level of forgiveness when you paint this style. Because you're not trying to paint something that's super precise and super clean. On the contrary, you're trying to paint something that's got a somewhat organic look to it because it's covered in dirt and it's messed up, it's dinged up from battle. That's very, very forgiving. So especially if you're new to painting and new to customizing, this is a great technique to use because of that high level of forgiveness. Now I said it's the Urzokk effect. Admittedly, Urzokk is not an easy figure to come by. If you don't have one in your collection, you're not 100% sure what I'm talking about. It is the same effect that you will find on the Brother Mandibulus figure. So this is certainly a much more accessible figure. More people have this from the advent of Decay Wave. And if you look at this figure around the shoulder pads, around the feet, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. This kind of dirty, scuffed up look that he has on his armor. It's very, very easy to create, and we're going to do that right on this video today. So the first thing you need to do is whatever you're going to paint, you want it to be a dark color. So there's two ways to achieve this. If it's starting out as not a dark color, say it's like a silver type armor, then you're going to want to get that black. For full coverage, I like to use spray paint. Rather than brush painting full coverage, spray paint is going to give you a nice even coat of spray. I just use Krylon flat black spray paint. If you check back at one of my previous videos around kind of like painting basics, I talk about the paints that I use and I show the actual can, but it's very simple. It's Krylon flat black or matte black spray paint. So I'll start by basing out the figure in that color. Now, in other instances, I may be starting with a figure that already is the color that I want. And that's what we're going to do today. We're actually going to use a Goblin Legion builder. Now, this particular figure actually has already had the effect done to him. Because if you know, the Legion builders, by design, come with not a lot of paint on them. The way they're able to get them sold at the lower price point that makes them attractive for army builders and for customizers is they don't come with the same kind of detailed paint applications that you find on other figures in the line. The reality is those paint hits, those paint decorations are one of the aspects of a figure that adds the most cost. So by dialing back those paint hits, those applications, that certainly lowers the cost of the figure, which the studio can then extend to customers in the form of the less expensive Legion builders. So Goblin Legion builder is what we're going to work with. Well, what I actually have here is I have a pauldron from a Goblin Legion builder, and I also have one of the alternate heads. So we're going to look at both of those pieces right now, and I'm going to show you how to achieve that same effect that we see on Urzokk and Brother Mandibulus. Okay, let's take a pause. I'm going to change the camera angle so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, and we're back. Now what you're going to see here is I'm going to paint these two pieces to have that effect. And I'm going to do it using two different paints, only two different colors, and my tried and true approach that I love, dry brushing. So the first color we're going to use here is this one. This is a Craftsmart color. This is Tin by Craftsmart. Now this is one of those less expensive like craft store brands that I love to get because they're inexpensive. They're great for dry brushing. I especially like using the metallics for dry brushing. I get this at Michael's. This is one that I use all the time for this exact effect. We're also going to use this one here, which this is a Vallejo mahogany. Now, realistically, you could use really any brown that you wanted. I'm just happening to use this one. This is not a super deep brown, not a super light brown. We're going to be dry brushing it on so lightly that it's not really a big deal. This one will work well for us. So first thing I'm going to do, shake up my paint, and I'm going to add a little bit of paint to my tray here. Now, I've talked about dry brushing many times before, but the idea is we're going to dip the paint in, the brush in the paint, dry it off largely on the paper towel that I have here, and then when there's just kind of the idea of paint on this brush, we're going to do that on our parts. The brushes I love to use, especially for dry brushing, are these brushes from Testors. I get these also at Michael's. Lately they've been sold out, so I've been getting them on Amazon. They come in a 3-pack with a size 2, a size 8, and a size 10. This one I'm using here is a size 10, and I'm doing that, it's the biggest size, because I really don't mind. This is not precision, you know, especially in the case of like the pauldron here. I just want to cover this whole piece. So bigger brush, I can get this done faster. So again, I dip that in there. Just dry that off here. And then all I'm going to do is, you see, I'm just going to rub it on. It's a little tough to see on camera because it is kind of a somewhat fine detail. One of the things I love to do, especially with this, because this first tin type color that I'm doing here, this is to add that scuffing. So I really try, I think about the edges. You know, the edges of armor, these are the things that would get scuffed up the most because they're exposed, right? So all these edges down here and everything, that's really where I want to start to focus. I want to focus on these areas here, get a little bit of extra paint on those. And I'm going to do the same thing for the head. So I got this head here, and I'm just going to, you know, I like to concentrate around the edges, the rim, because that would be the part that would be scuffed the most. And this is great. This is an easy piece to do because it's already a dark armor color. If you're using any figure that has a dark armor color to begin with, say for instance like a skeleton legion builder. So a skeleton legion builder comes realistically with the same color armor that you see on this head right here. This works wonderfully on that figure to add a little bit of detail where it doesn't have it already. And there's no wrong answer here. I just put a little bit of silver paint on that. Now the next thing, and I'm going to even use the same brush. I'm not even going to change brush. I'm going to put a little bit of brown, not a lot. This one's going to be very, very subtle. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to dry brush that on. And you just dry brush that little bit of brown paint. Move this a little bit. Dry brush that brown paint. Two-step process, literally takes minutes to do, but can transform a figure or a part that is largely unpainted into a part that has these additional paint effects. And I love even, look at this sculpture, like this head in particular, the way the armor is sculpted, there's already scratches and dents in the armor because it's a goblin. Make use of that. Add a little bit of extra paint right to those actual like scuffs and everything, because those are sculptural details that you can have some fun with. I love the holes over here. When you do dry brushing over those holes, the brush is got so little paint that the brush won't go in the holes. So it almost looks like the dirt is kind of leaking out of those holes. It's a really fun effect to do. And I'm going to do the same thing with the pauldron here. Just a little bit of brown paint, concentrate on the edges. And as you do a whole figure like this, you know, you're definitely trying not to be precise. You don't want it to look uniform. You know, if you put a big blotch of brown on this pauldron, don't feel like you've got to put the exact same amount of, you know, brown dirt on the other pauldron. You want it to look different. When I do this, especially around the feet, I always concentrate on the feet of the figure because I imagine that this character would be tramping around in the mud and everything, and that's the armor, the creases of his armor here. That's where a lot of that dirt would actually collect. Let's see if I can get this to focus a little bit here, but it's a super easy effect to do. I almost feel silly doing a video about it, but the reality is whenever I use this, I get a lot of comments. People say, oh, they really like how that looks. It's a paint effect that is used on the actual figures, which means if you use this, the figures have a good chance of blending in and looking like they belong with other figures in the line as is, which that's always an attractive thing. That's always something that we strive for. Very, very cool. Let me switch back the camera angle and we'll continue. And we're back again. So that's all it takes. Again, it's a really, really simple process. Now, granted, I just painted those two pieces really quickly. If you were doing the whole figure and you had all the body parts and the pauldrons and even the weapons or what have you, that would certainly take a little more time, but only a little. It's a really, really quick method you can use to just add that kind of dirty, scuffed up effect to a piece. Let's see if it focuses there. Come on, focus, buddy. I want you to see some of that dirt. Fun effect, really easy to do, takes minutes. Once again, 2 paint colors. I use Craftsmart tin. You don't need to use this one. Any kind of silver. I like the tin because it's a little bit darker than like a pure bright silver. Tin is the one that I tend to go with, but definitely like a dark silver. I mean, if all you have is silver, that will work too. You're putting on so little of it, it doesn't really matter. And then a brown. I like kind of a mid-tone brown. This is a Vallejo mahogany. And once again, focus on the areas. If you have the Brother Mandibulus figure, if you have the Urzokk figure, take a few minutes, look at those figures, look at the way that effect is done. Even between these two figures, there's different levels of how dirty they are, how much of this effect was painted on, but you'll start to be able to see how this is done. And it's kind of, the behind the scenes type look. If you know how it's done, you can start to look at the figures and figure out, oh, now I understand that method. It's something that I can recreate. Very, very simple. Hope it helps. If you want to create these battle-hardened armor type characters, it's a great way to do so. If you enjoy this video and others like it, please let me know by giving it a like, by letting me know in the comments if you have any thoughts, and certainly if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so you are notified when videos like this launch. Thank you very much for sharing. I can't wait to see what you make.